What do you want in 2024? That's the question we are diving into today because so many of us have gotten to a place in life where we simply exist. We go through the motions, maybe make a New Year's resolution that we never intend on keeping. What if 2024 could be different? If you're curious, then stay tuned for this limited bonus episode of the Milspouse Mastermind Show. You, my friend, were made for more. More than the managing of schedules, keeping up with kiddos, and holding down the home front. Welcome to the Milspouse Mastermind Show, the podcast that empowers you to get unstuck and craft a life with more meaning and less overwhelm. I'm your host, Christine, seasoned military spouse, mom of 3, and your guide to designing a life you love and growing a purpose-fueled business as a military spouse. I believe you have something valuable to offer, and when you pursue the things that light your heart on fire, you trade frustration for fulfillment and isolation for a life of impact. It's time to discover who you are meant to be, because together we can change the world. Earlier this week, I went live inside of our free Facebook community, and there was so much goodness in there about how we set intentions, how we determine what we want out of this year, and how we make the most of 2024 that I wanted to share it with all of you. In that training, we dove deep into what my annual goal setting process actually looks like and how you can set yourself up for living with more intentionality and purpose in 2024. Even if life is not ideal, even if you're PCSing this year, even if your spouse is going to be gone more than they're home. So I am including the audio of that training, and I want to let you know right now that I have a free gift for you. My 2024 goal setting guide is available for you to download this week just by clicking the link in the show notes. This is a PDF I've put together for you that takes you step by step through the process I use to set my goals and intentions for the year. Now, I will say I am still recovering from sickness last week, so I do get a little bit congested in the training, but that is real life, and it was more important for me to get this information to you than to try to wait until I'm 100% back to normal. So without further ado, here's your best year yet, 2024 edition. One of the things I love to do at the beginning of every year is talk about how we set ourselves up for success in the new year and what exactly that means. Why I do this training every year is, number one, this is what I do for myself and what I have been doing for the last several years to be more intentional with my year, to be able to go after some big goals and dreams. And when we are able to be more intentional with our time, we really set ourselves up for success and really do the work that needs to be done for us to change the trajectory of our life. Because when we don't have a plan, when we're just kind of showing up and letting our schedule, letting our life dictate our actions and activities, that is what leads us to feel frustrated, to feel disempowered, to feel unhappy and unfulfilled by the way our life looks. And it ultimately leads us to be unsure of who we are and what we want our lives to look and feel like. Identity and purpose are huge challenges for the military spouse population. I did 2 interviews for the podcast yesterday, and this theme came up over and over again. The need for knowing who we are, who we want to be, how we want our lives to look and feel is so important. And because we struggle with identity, with purpose, we also tend to struggle with goal setting, not just because we don't know what we really want, but also because there are so many things that try to get in the way of us actually pursuing a life of meaning and purpose as a military spouse. So let me ask, as we get started today, what do you want out of 2024? Not what circumstances you want to change, or what you want your kids to do, or what you want your spouse to do, but what would you love to see different about the way that you live your life in 2024? So really, there's two questions that we want to ask ourselves. Is number one, do you know what you want out of 2024? Because that's the first question. If we don't even know what we want, where we're trying to go, we're probably not going to get there. And then the second question is, do you have a plan to move the needle? Because without a plan, we're unlikely to make something happen. And even with a plan, we know what military life often does to our plans. We can make the plan, we can put all these pieces in place to make it structured to set ourselves up for success, and then something's going to happen that gets in the way. And so the biggest mindset shift that I have had to make as a military spouse is not focusing as much on whether I achieved a goal within the time period I was hoping for, but whether the actions that I took and what I did on a daily basis, whether that was moving the needle in the right direction. So today we are going to talk about goal setting and about setting ourselves up for success in 2024. And I just want this to be a very honest conversation. So if you're popping on, you have questions, feel free to just put them in the chat, or you can jump onto Zoom with me and pop those in the chat there, because I am happy to have a conversation about all of the things we are trying to accomplish and all of the things that get in the way. But as we get started today, this is what I want you to know, that life can be challenging. It can be full of uncertainty and not knowing what's coming next and not having things happen in the way that we want them to. You are not broken. You are not a failure. You are doing the best you can with what you have right now. And as you are choosing to show up, to listen to this, that shows me that you care, that you want more out of life. And that is a fantastic starting point for us to be about today. This training today is about empowering you to love your life as a military spouse and be able to go after your dreams, the dreams on your heart, without waiting for some future season. You have everything you need to get started today. And so I'm going to start to share my screen. Hopefully this works. Yes. All right. Best year yet, 2024. How to set and achieve meaningful goals for your current season of life. All right. So here's the other fun part, my free gift to you, the Milspouse Goal Setting Guide. This is what I walk through each year to set my intentions for the year. I compiled it all into a PDF that you can download and fill out, and that is currently available just by going to milspousemastermind.com/goals. So that will be up for the remainder of this week, and I would highly encourage you to go download that. We're going to be walking through it today so you can see what's inside. And if you are listening to this on the replay, you can pause it, go fill it out, and then we can continue on together. But this training, this conversation is for you. If you have no idea what you want out of this year, this is for you if you are tired of trying and failing to achieve goals. You've set goals in the past, you've tried to go after them, you feel like you've failed, and you're wondering if there's a better way. This is for you if you've never been someone who sets goals because life is crazy and why would you even try? And this is for you if you think it's too late to set goals for your year. And this is something that is especially near and dear to my heart because I think we get in this idea that we have to do this the last week in December or the first week in January, or it's too late for us. The season, the time has passed us by, and now we got to wait a whole nother year before we can actually start changing the way that our life looks. And that is one myth that I desperately want to dispel. I've shared this story several times before, but one of the most productive years of my life, I never even had time to sit down and think about my year, think about the goals I wanted to set until February. But that time that I was able to carve out in February made a huge difference for all the things that I accomplished over the course of that year. So it's not about setting our goals at the beginning of January. And honestly, sometimes life happens. Let me be very real with you that this month has not gone smoothly for our family. We started January and then my husband got sick, I got sick, we didn't get everything done, and then we had a family trip planned, so we went straight from trying to recover from sickness to the trip, and here we are. This is January 17th, and the Christmas stuff is not put away. It is all just in a pile in my living room still. Mid-January. It has never been past MLK Day when I have put away the Christmas stuff before, but that is real life. So I don't know what your January has looked like thus far, but it is never too late to start being intentional with your year. And then finally, this conversation is for you if you are anticipating a major life event this year, whether that be a PCS, whether that be a deployment, whether that be a new baby on the way, whatever it is that is going on that you see on the horizon and it's making you think, I can't set goals for my year because of this. I can't plan, I can't make progress because of something that's going on. Now, let me just, again, real life here. Sometimes stuff happens, right? Sometimes we don't know if stuff is going to happen. I might be PCSing in 5 or 6 months. I might not. I don't know. I am not one of these people that gets like this 9-month notice that something's happening. We usually don't find out until the last minute. We know that my husband's job is going to change this summer. We don't know where that's going to be. So I might be PCSing around the world this summer. I might not, but that doesn't keep me from planning my year. So what we're going to cover in the next few minutes together is how to have your best year yet. even if. And we'll get to that in a minute, but I want you to hold on to that phrase, even if. So we're going to talk about how to have our best year yet, even if. We're going to talk about why we struggle to set and achieve goals and a system that can work for your life as a military spouse. So the question that you may be wondering is, can I really have my best year yet? Now, what do we mean by best year yet? I'm not promising that nothing bad is going to happen this year, that this year is going to be the easiest year you've ever had. I'm not promising that you're going to achieve all your goals. I'm not promising that nothing's going to get in the way, that something is not going to try to keep you from making progress on your goals. Because your best year yet is not about the external circumstances. It's about making the most of where you are and what you have today. And ultimately, it's about intentionally creating a meaningful and fulfilling life for yourself, even if you're going through a PCS, even if your spouse is gone a lot, even if life circumstances aren't what you want them to be, even if you have littles at home and it feels like you don't have a lot of time in your day. Because what it ultimately comes down to is making the most of every single day. Because how we spend our days is ultimately how we spend our life. And it's easy to ignore the mundaneness of everyday life, but this mundaneness, this how we show up day in and day out, that's what makes the biggest difference in our life overall. And if you want to change your life, if you want to wake up, show up, live a life of meaning and purpose, then it comes down to how you spend your days. And so often, we don't spend our days with intention. And this is what leads us to have this sense of, I'm not happy with my life. I feel unfulfilled. As Brendan Burchard says, it is a lack of a decisive cause, something worth striving for, an ambitious purpose that sets our hearts ablaze and our feet marching forward, that locks us into unlived lives. And too many of us will choose to live unlived lives because we don't know who we are. We don't know what we want, and we're not making the most of what we have today. So this is why goal setting goals for our lives ultimately matters. Goals give us a direction. They help us determine our priorities and sustain momentum. And goals can go a long way to improving our mental health, our self-confidence, and our success. Not only that, people who set and regularly self-monitor are almost 2.5 times more likely to attain their goals. So if we don't set goals, then we're less likely to achieve goals. And if we set goals, but we don't actually monitor our progress, then we're not as likely to achieve our goals. So number 1 is goal setting. And then number 2 is that reflection, that evaluation, that monitoring our progress. And this is ultimately the path to purpose, to greater clarity, to fulfillment, to happiness, to joy, and to discovering who we are meant to be, which is something that we all want, right? So we have this idea of where we want to go, what we need, but then we're hesitant to set goals for ourselves. Now, sometimes that's because we are not setting any goals. And if that's you, that's okay. We all have a starting point. Sometimes that's because we're not setting the right goals for ourselves. Sometimes we struggle with goal setting because we don't actually have a plan. And a goal without a plan is simply a dream. So, number one, we have to actually set a goal. Number two, we have to set the right goals for us. And we'll talk about that in a minute. Number three, we have to actually have a plan to make progress to our goals. And then the other issue that we have with goal setting is that sometimes we get focused on the wrong results. And we'll talk about that as well. So, is there a goal setting system that fits our ever-changing military lifestyle? Yes. The Milspouse flexible goal setting method to set and achieve meaningful goals for your current season of life. And this is a method that I developed based on life as a military spouse, and particularly someone who moves roughly every 2 years, who is wanting to go after goals and dreams, who is wanting to live with more intentionality, who is wanting to live a fulfilling life as a military spouse, but I need to know how to make that happen. How do I still live my life with intentionality when there are so many things outside of my control? So I developed this method that will work for your life as a military spouse. And what we're going to do in the next few minutes together, like I said, is we're going to go through this guide that I created. It's a free guide that you can go download. We'll talk through what I actually do at the beginning of every year. And again, beginning is a fluid concept. Sometimes it's, end of December. Sometimes it's in February, right? But it's saying, okay, I'm going to choose to be intentional with the time that I have for the next 10, 11, 12 months of my life. And again, you can go download the goal setting guide by going to milspousemastermind.com/goals. All right. If you have downloaded your goal setting guide, that free PDF, we're going to walk through it together. And there's really two main pieces to setting our intentions and our goals for the year. And part one is about reflection. And we're going to look at all of these different areas of our life, because before we can know where to go, we have to reflect on where we are today. So the key question is, how does life feel today? And this is divided into these different sections that you can use. You do not have to go through all of these sections, but the more that you look at these different areas, the more that you're going to have an understanding of where you are today and where you want to go. So the first section, and I did a podcast episode on this not too long ago, but it's about looking back, because before we want to look ahead, we got to look back at the last year and see what happened over the last year and what we can learn from that. So that is always my starting point, is looking back and reflecting on the last year, starting with gratitude, because gratitude sets our mind and focuses our mind in a positive direction. So what can I be thankful for in the last year? What did I do well? What did I learn? What am I now better at? And then saying, okay, now let me see where I struggled and what got in my way and what can I learn from that? And so we've gotten this idea of what happened. And the third worksheet page in that workbook is a great way to get a visual of this. So what I do is go back through my calendar and just jot down a few of the key things that happened in each month and then how I felt about each month, just to see what was going on and what themes kind of emerge. So you don't have to do that, but it's a great way to get a visual in one piece. The second part of that is really looking at the key areas of your life. I've talked a lot about the growth wheel and how this sets us up for success in the long run. But one of the key things is being able to break our life down into these 10 key areas and look at our life and how we're doing in each of those areas, giving ourselves a number as a starting point in each area. So I look back about the last year and where I'm at today. How does my life feel in each area? And why do I feel that way? And this is just jotting down reasons, things that are going on that are contributing to the score I gave myself. None of us are going to be a perfect 10 in each of these areas. That is okay. If you have areas that are not good, are not what you would consider a good number, that's okay, because it's not about judging ourselves for where we're at. It's about accepting where we are today so we can figure out where we want to go and how we want to grow over the next year. And then just kind of looking at this as a whole, I think of life balance in terms of these 3 major buckets. And the question is, am I pouring into these buckets? So it's not about having equally distributed numbers in these areas. It's about what am I doing to keep my bucket full so that I can connect with others, so that I can pour out and make a contribution that matters, so that I am filling myself back up. Because when my cup is empty, I have nothing to give to others. I have no way to connect in a healthy way to those in my life. I can't pursue purpose because I'm completely depleted and drained. And so it's looking at these 3 major buckets, and if I have the healthy inputs so that I have healthy outputs. So you can kind of see, if I don't have healthy inputs, then I'm probably not going to have healthy outputs. And then I just want to highlight the center of the growth wheel is the question, who do I want to be? Because so many times we get focused on what we should be doing, how we can be earning money, all the things that we want to accomplish or obtain, when what will bring us the most fulfillment is being able to answer the question, who do I want to be? This is a much more important question because it gets to the heart of our identity and our purpose, and the ability for us to show up in the way we want to show up in life. And so this is where, I'm going to go back one screen. We look within. And if you have purchased Milspouse Purpose Playbook, you know that this is the bulk of what we do in this course together. It's to get clear on who you are, what your identity is, and what your purpose is. And so before we want to look ahead, we need to ground ourselves and remind ourselves what really matters and where we want to go and who we want to be. So this is your chance in your book to write down, okay, what are my core values? What are my I am statements? What's my aspirational identity? What's my purpose and action statement? If you have not yet purchased Milspouse Purpose Playbook, stay tuned to the end, and I will have a special offer for you. But even if you have not done that, then I have a free worksheet to help you identify your values. And that is a great place to start. And that is available by going to milspousemastermind.com/values. And you can download that worksheet. And that is a great place to get you started if you haven't jumped inside Milspouse Purpose Playbook. The next part of reflection is looking at where you want to go. And this is really about setting a vision and some longer term goals for your life. And this is where you get to dream big about what you want for your life. And we go over how to do this in much greater detail in Milspouse Purpose Playbook. But if you have taken the time to set a life vision, if you have taken the time to establish those really big goals that you're wanting to work towards, this is a place to write that down, to reflect on what do I want to happen in the next 3 to 5 years so that I can start moving the needle to get me where I want to go. So far, we've looked at our last year. We've looked at how life looks and feels today in each of those 10 areas. We've looked at who we are at our core and who we want to be. And we've looked at our big goals and dreams and vision for our life. There's one last piece, number 5, to reflect on before we start to set intentions for our year. And I call this look out, because sometimes it's not our external circumstances that hold us back. It's what's in here. It's those thoughts, those limiting beliefs. And so taking the time to say, okay, what is it that I'm dwelling on right now? What is it that is holding me back? What thoughts do I keep getting stuck in? And what do I need to release, let go of, accept? What do I do with this so that I can move forward and make progress in the year ahead? There's a bonus worksheet in the packet that you can do. You do not have to do this, but it is a great exercise every year to really identify like those 3 top fears or limiting beliefs and to have something to combat those fears or beliefs. So I will, at the beginning of the year, to say, hey, these are the top things where I am getting stuck, and what am I going to tell myself? What am I going to remind myself of the truth to combat that thought, that fear, that limiting belief? So that is a bonus worksheet in there for you if you choose to do it. It's a great exercise and one that I take what the verses that I choose to fill my brain with instead. That goes into something that I can look at on a regular basis and remind myself of the truth rather than those fears and thoughts that pop up that tell me that I'm not enough, that I can't do it, that who are you to attempt this goal, this dream? So this first half of the workbook is the reflection section. And then we can move into setting our goals. How do we want to grow in 2024? So the way that I have broken this up is by 2 kinds of goals: your growth goals and your arrow goals. Your arrow goals are the big things that you want to do that lead towards those long-term goals, towards your life vision, towards your aspirational identity, towards the big dream on your heart. But then your growth goals are the ways that you want to grow and improve your life as a whole. And so we start with growth goals because these are going to move the needle about how our life looks and feels as a whole. And then we can add in those big arrow goals. Let's start with this quote because John Maxwell is one of my favorites. He says, if you focus on goals, you may hit goals, but that does not guarantee growth. But if you focus on growth, you will grow and always hit goals. So the big shift for me personally was thinking about goals not in terms of what I wanted to accomplish, but in terms of how I want to grow in a given year. So the first thing is to look at specific actions, goals, and habits that will support my personal growth. And so when I look at this in my own life, I typically have a goal for books I want to read, podcasts I want to listen to, courses I want to take, or a coach I want to work with. Something specifically focused on my personal growth or skills that I want to develop in the coming year. So that first part of goal setting for me is looking at my overall growth and how I want to grow. And then I go back to that life assessment that we did earlier. How does my life feel today in each of these 10 areas? And what is contributing to that? So then I take that information and say, okay, what 1 to 2 things could I do in each of these areas that truly moves the needle in the right direction? And so there's a sheet in your workbook to go through and say, okay, what are a couple of things that I could do that would really move the needle for this particular area? Now, the goal here is to take this information and actually begin to be intentional with it, to change the way that we show up. And that comes down to our habits, our rhythms, our routines, and our daily schedule. So once I have taken a look at each of these 10 areas and I've identified a couple of things that I could do to grow in each of these areas, I take all of that information and I put it into a list because that is what helps me categorize all of these things and say, okay, let me make a list of what these things are, what categories those apply to, and is this an action, a habit I want to develop? Is this an ultimate end goal that I'm aiming for? Or is this a project that I just need to carve out some time for on a one-time basis and be done? So that helps me begin to look at things a little more holistically. And then the next step for me is to identify my core commitments. I've done a couple of episodes on the podcast about core commitments, but this is how we take the information, the things that we want to do to grow, and apply it to our lives. These are the daily, weekly, or monthly actions that we are going to do consistently to help us grow in each area. And it comes down to infusing this into our everyday life because the way we spend our days is the way that we spend our life. And so we have to identify what are the most important things that we can do on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis that will help us grow, that will help us move the needle, that will help us show up as the person that we want to be, that will help us be at this place where we are not pouring from an empty cup, but that we are doing the things that we need to sustainably take care of ourselves so that we can pour into others and so that we can pursue our purpose. So usually I choose no more than 8 to 10 weekly core commitments. Then I have a couple of things I do on a monthly basis. And then the things that I want to do on a daily basis, those I put more under my rhythms and routines. And if you go back and listen to one of the episodes about how I actually schedule out my week, we can go into that in greater detail. But the piece that I want you to walk away with today is establishing 8 to 10 core commitments. Those are things that are going to help you grow in these life areas that you are going to make a part of your weekly or monthly way of life, that you are going to put in your schedule, so that you know that one of your core commitments is, let's say, to go work out 3 times a week. And that is a core commitment. So that's going to go be something that gets put on your calendar, that gets put into your weekly schedule, that is going to help you show up in all of these other areas of life. Truly, the most important thing that I think that you can do for yourself to live your best year yet in 2024 is to identify your overall areas for growth, your specific growth goals, and then choose out of that what you want to make your core commitments for the year, that you are going to put on your weekly schedule. This is how we truly began to transform our life and began to show up as the person that we want to be, to show up for ourselves, for those around us, and for the good that we are trying to do in the world. And if you do nothing else, this will transform your life. Now, in the workbook, I do give you an area for also inputting in arrow goals for your year. And so I think of level 1 as being focusing on growth goals and making that a part of your life this year, and that will truly transform your life. But level 2 is developing a list of a few arrow goals for your year. And these are the big things that you are working towards that will lead you to your 3 to 5 year goals, and that will lead you to your life vision. And you take that big picture of, where am I trying to get to? What am I moving towards? And what are the things that I can do this year to move the needle? These are your big arrow goals. And the way that we actually make arrow goals happen is by creating a plan, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces. So you have a couple of sample pages in your workbook to help you give a visual representation of this. Because at the end of the day, if we don't have a plan, we're probably not going to make progress on those really big goals. And so we have to figure out what the big arrow goal is, what the major moves that need to happen, what small steps go into each of those major moves, and then begin to put it on our calendar for the next 90 days. Okay, let me break this down even further. What do I want to accomplish in 90 days? And what does that mean for month 1, month 2, month 3? And then break it down even further. What does that mean for week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4? Now, this is to say that life is going to happen, that things are going to get in your way, that are going to cause you to move more slowly than you would probably like. And that's why I developed the flexible goal setting method. And when you get inside my flexible goal setting masterclass, I talk about how I actually break these goals down into bite-sized pieces and how I track this information in a way where I can easily continue to adjust the timelines that I need so that I'm still making progress towards the things that matter. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is that you don't compare yourself to the person who has all of these support systems and structures in place to make a lot of progress in a limited amount of time. You are a military spouse, life is going to be a little more chaotic than your average person. And the worst thing that you can do for yourself is to compare yourself to someone who is living a completely different life. But I have the system, the flexible goal setting system, that allows you to break those really big goals and dreams down into a plan and then continue to adjust as needed so that you are still making progress, even if it isn't as fast as you would like it to be. And then finally, the last couple of pages in your workbook talk about how you actually set your priorities for the next 90 days. And that involves not looking at just what you need to do, but it involves looking at what is coming up, what else is going on in your life, what else are you committed to? What do you need to fuel you? What do you need to make sure you are doing to take care of yourself? And what is distracting you from your purpose so that you are able to have an accurate picture of what your priorities need to be for the next 90 days and then put it on a schedule? Because if you don't schedule your time out, everyone else's priorities will take over your time and your schedule, and you will not make the progress towards the things that truly matter to you. Now, the last thing that I will say is a part of my annual goal setting routine is establishing a word of the year. I put this in here as a bonus because you may or may not want to do this, but I highly recommend it. I have been doing this for probably 5 or 6 years now, and it's always interesting to me when I go through this process because I do this towards the end. I've taken the time to reflect on the last year. I've taken time to assess where I'm at today. I've taken the time to figure out what I want my priorities to be, how I want to grow, how I want to show up. And then I just look at those themes and see what emerges as my word of the year. It is not usually a word I want it to be or something that I am expecting, but I have grown so much and learned so much just by taking the time to say, what does my word for the year need to be? Because that is an anchor point. Whether you set any arrow goals, whether you have a lot of growth goals or just 1 or 2 growth goals for your year, I highly recommend taking the time to choose one word for your year because that is going to help you prioritize the things that matter most, that are in alignment with your word of the year. I hope you have gotten a lot out of this conversation today. I hope it encourages you that there is a way for you to grow in 2024 and have your best year yet, even if you have not downloaded the goal setting guide yet, I recommend you go do that. And very quickly, let me just say, if you've not already stepped inside Milspouse Purpose Playbook, this is the guide for military spouses to help you reclaim your life and dreams and discover who you are meant to be. If identity and purpose are these themes that keep coming up, these are the exercises. This is the training that you can use to get clear on who you are, where you want to go, and how you want to grow. I am so passionate about having more military spouses step into this clarity that I created a special discount for you to use through the end of January. It is 40% off if you purchase the course through the end of January. You can jump inside and learn more about the course by going to morethanamilspouse.com. All right, there is one more thing I want to let you know about, and I am super excited about this one. I created a brand new package called Your Best Year Yet package, which gives you access to Milspouse Purpose Playbook, your self-guided clarity course, but you also get 3 one-on-one coaching sessions with me, because what happens sometimes is that we start to get clarity. We start to have all of these ideas and thoughts come up, and we need someone to help us process that information so that we don't get stuck in information overwhelm. And so the Best Year Yet package is about helping you get that clarity, helping you set your goals for the year, and having someone to walk alongside you and provide you with that accountability. So you will have 6 months to use those clarity coaching sessions to help you get the clarity you need. And again, that option is available through the end of January at 40% off, because I truly want you to start this year off and set yourself up for success in 2024. Now, when you jump inside, not only do you get the course, you also get the goal setting masterclass, which talks about how I practically track my goals through the year. You get the clarity workbook, you get growth assessments and reflections, a daily productivity planner, and the goal setting guide. Let me just say this, if you are not ready to jump inside yet, at least go download the free workbook to help you get started in setting your goals for the year. And as always, the Milspouse Mastermind Show is your free podcast available every week to encourage you to live a life of purpose as a military spouse. The last thing I will say today is that you are not behind. This information is not about how to hustle harder or to make you feel bad about where you are today. If you do one thing, if you take one step, if you will start to look at your life through the lens of these 10 life areas and think about how you want to grow in the next year, you will be amazed at what happens. Because what matters more than anything is not what you accomplish, but who you become in the process. And that is what I want to leave you with today. All right, guys, let me just say that this is not to say that I don't struggle with overwhelm anymore or that I always achieve all of my goals, but I keep moving the needle towards who I am becoming. And that is what truly matters. That, my friend, is how we trade frustration for fulfillment. And that is what I want for you in 2024. So if you know you are looking for and lacking clarity in your life, I recommend investing in the Best Year Yet package, which is available through the end of January. You get your self-guided clarity course and 3 one-on-one coaching sessions to help you address whatever is keeping you stuck and help you take action towards the things that matter most to you. Just imagine where you could be a year from now if you choose to invest in yourself and your potential this year. I will meet you back here next week for our regularly scheduled weekly podcast. Until then, may you live filled, fueled, and full of joy. Hey friend, before you go, the Milspouse Mastermind community is here to help you thrive as a military spouse. Figure out what lights your heart on fire and equip you to create a life of impact. You can have an incredible impact simply by heading over to iTunes to subscribe and leave a review. And if today's episode was meaningful to you, I know it will be for others too. Spread the word by taking a screenshot of this episode and share it to your stories so we can continue to reach more people, change more lives, and shift the way that military spouses look at life. Because we are better together, and together we can change the world. Let's do it.